We're on year 3 of 35 years of Madden in 35 weeks, and this time we're taking a look at John Madden Football 92. For 1992, this was the only game released for the Sega Genesis. There was no Super Nintendo version, and it's kind of like an update that was necessary considering that the Super Nintendo version had a few nuances and additions that the Sega Genesis version of John Madden Football did not have. Now, we've definitely got some catching up to do though, so let's get at it. Before we start playing, we have to select our team, so leaving it up to chance, we're going to see who we get, and we get the 1992 Tampa Bay Buccaneers. The real-life Bucks would go 5-11 in the regular season, with 3 of their wins coming in the first 4 weeks and only 2 more in the following 12. This would still tie for the third worst record in the NFC Central with the Lions and Bears. However, the Bucks scored the least amount of points and allowed the most points scored when comparing Detroit and Chicago. This would be the last year the team started quarterback Vinny Testaverde, where he would put up a whelming 2,554 passing yards, 14 touchdowns to 16 interception ratio, and was sacked a whopping 35 times. Their leading rusher was Reggie Cobb, having his best season of his pro career, going for 1,171 rushing yards to 9 touchdowns, averaging 73.2 yards a game. On the receiving side, Lawrence Dawsey would lead the team in yards with 776, but only 1 touchdown. This was also the first head coaching year for Sam Wyche at Tampa, coming off an 8-year stint with the Cincinnati Bengals. Also, apparently the 1992 Tampa Bay Buccaneers special teams unit was pretty bad, and one point that really illustrates it is the kicking, making only 12 of their 22 attempts between 2 kickers. Alright, with all that information, let's go ahead and see if we can do any better in John Madden Football 1992. Hello again, Coach. The splash screen has a lot less scary version of John Madden than the previous entry did. I found it a little charming that they have Coach say, "Hey, I did another Genesis football game," and then introduces the dev team right off the bat. In this entry, the Madden series still did not yet have the NFL license. However, this would mark the first Sega entry that at least all 28 teams' cities are represented in-game. With the Jets being New Jersey, the Giants in New York, Raiders are in Oakland, and the Rams are in LA. The home fields are also represented correctly, with outdoor teams' conditions being outdoors and open, and indoor teams being dome and turf. Also, when a game ends that was outdoors, it may now be dark outside and the stadium is lit up, a nice touch to help with the overall atmosphere. In-game, the presentation has been improved quite a bit over the 1990 Genesis version, with a colored team banner, scoreboard-like border, and much larger down, yards, and score counters. At halftime, there is a bit more statistical detail than the previous entry, and again with presentation in mind, including some generally random, it seems, thoughts from Coach Madden himself. Some in-game updates include the home team's fans getting excited for big plays or booing for giving up a sack. In close situations, the chains get brought out to measure for first down, and the addition of injuries in this entry, which brings out an ambulance onto the field, which knocks out a bunch of other players as they get the injured player and remove them from the field and the game. The core gameplay does remain largely the same. On defense, you can call plays and control one player, switching between them as you see fit, and on offense, you can select a play and either hand off to a back to control the run, or take a shot as quarterback and throw it to an assigned player to the A, B, or C buttons. Now, for this Tampa Bay team in particular, they weren't really good at any one thing. Coming off a powerhouse team like the 1990 49ers, it was quite the adjustment to not be able to rely on my rushing attack for almost every game, and instead I had to really familiarize myself with the passing game. However, due to the lackluster receiving room, there would be many instances of passes sailing through an open receiver, bouncing off them, or just not getting there. I also got to experience the real-world kicking woes with this team, as many of my attempts either didn't have the leg even with the full meter, or would just sail wide. My Buccaneers outperformed their real-world counterparts by just 1 game, with my biggest win coming against the Colts in a 28-7 smackdown on both sides of the ball, which also gave me false hope that maybe I can turn this team around early in the season, and my worst loss coming from the Chicago Bears, where I tried to fake punt early but totally missed the ball and gave them a safety where it was all downhill from there. Overall, John Madden Football 92 just feels like a necessary upgrade for the Sega Genesis, where it takes parts of the Super Nintendo game and puts it into this improved version for the system. And while the Tampa Bay Buccaneers might not have been the best team to experience the game on, I still had fun getting 1 additional win versus their real-world counterpart. And if you want my opinion, here's my snap ranking of the games that I've played so far and which one I feel is the best to the worst. And that'll wrap up John Madden Football 92. We're going to take on the 93 edition next, where we're going to spin for our next team and see who we can try and lead to glory. Until next time, cheers.